Hello and welcome to Boat Wreck. My name is PJ, and today I'm going to be talking about Star Trek Lower Decks Episode 3, Temporal Edict. This was pretty much on par with the last two episodes. Probably not necessarily as funny as I thought the second episode was, but it was up there. So what I'm going to do a summary of the episode, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts. So the episode opens with Boimler playing a fiddle at the bar in what appears to be open mic night on the ship. And Mariner and Tendi interrupt him with a loud guitar rendition, which is felt throughout the ship for some reason, even on the bridge, where we see a motion picture style Klingon on the ship, and he becomes irritated and asks, what is the meaning of this intense bass? And then Boimler starts performing again a song he calls Requiem for a Hug. A lot of amusing jokes throughout, nothing really laugh out loud funny like the Rutherford stuff from last episode. Anyway, Shax comes in and yells at him and breaks the fiddle and says he's being too loud, and Boimler apologizes. We get the opening credits. While en route to Cardassia Prime to a peace summit, Starfleet informs the Cerritos that the summit has been moved to Vulcan, which upsets Captain Freeman because she prepped for Cardassia, and she even learned the dance, as she says. The captain is fed up with the ship basically not being respected, and becomes determined to push the crew to do much better and much more to earn that respect. Then our lower decks main characters, they're doing some tasks, and they're talking about buffer time, meaning that you always exaggerate how long it takes to do a task, so when you finish early, you look good. Tendi gets a call from the doctor and asks how long it will be to fix a biobed, and it looks like she's going to say 5 minutes, but she says 5 hours, and they do that thing where the senior staff looks upset about something, and they're like, oh, okay, and she's like, yeah, that's great, fine. Yeah. So Freeman is walking around the ship basically pissed off at everybody being so lazy and whatnot. And anyway, they're all drinking margaritas and stuff and kind of being really relaxed and whatnot. And she's chastising them, and she hears a crew member say, so much for buffer time. And when she encounters Boimler in the turbo lift, she asks him very aggressively what buffer time is. And it cuts away, but we assume that he told her. Because in the next scene, the lower decks crew are bombarded with timed assignments that will have them working pretty much every minute of the day to avoid any chance of there being any buffer time. And this stresses the crew out and causes panic and fatigue. And as the crew scramble to complete their tasks in the allotted time, so yeah, they look very tired. They have bags under their eyes and whatnot. Boimler, of course, is walking around embracing it, and he has fun singing and dancing while purging the calibration matrix. In the shuttle bay, a crew led by Commander Ransom is ready to depart on their away mission to meet with the Galrakians. And Ransom, in a little speech, references horned gorillas, which are the Mugato from the TOS episode, A Private Little War. And he also references sentient tar, which is Armis from the TNG episode Skin of Evil. That's the guy that kills Tasha Yar. And he also references spores that make you hook up with your best friend's sister, a reference to the TOS episode This Side of Paradise. Mariner shows up late, and she has a bad attitude, and she's arguing with Ransom. Shows very little respect toward him. And he tells Mariner to roll down her sleeves, which didn't seem important at the time, but it plays later in the episode. So while they head down to Galrakia, Ransom explains, I guess that's what it's called, Galrakia, because they're Galrakians. Ransom explains that their social system is based around crystals, and they must display the honor crystal to show that they come in peace. They land, and a bullying officer, Ensign Vendome, displays the wrong gift. It's actually a piece of wood instead of the honor crystal, a mistake he made rushing to complete his tasks under the captain's new regiment, which I guess shows the negative effects of pushing the crew too hard. The alien yells, "He's got wood! He's got wood!" That was kind of funny. Galrakians are offended and they attack the away team since this piece of wood is actually a sex charm from their sworn enemies, and they consider it very insulting. Ensign Vendome is stabbed by the spear, and Mariner helps him, and Ransom tries to broker some peace, and of course he gets kicked in the balls, and an electric net is cast over him, and the crew are captured. So on the Cerritos, Rutherford and Tendi are burned out completely from all their tasks. And then the Galrakians invade the ship. But Freeman is like, no, ignore them, stick to your tasks, which is strange, but I guess it's all played for comedy. Cartoon rules, I guess, It's a little silly. Mariner and Ransom argue with each other while they're in captivity, of course, and Ransom is told that he must fight a giant Galrakian for his crew's freedom. Or else they die. Ransom and Mariner, of course, fight over who will actually fight. Back on the ship, Boimler easily dispatches some of the intruders with a phaser, and he goes to the bridge where he realizes that even the bridge crew have been pushed to their limits by the captain. Mariner and Ransom argue some more, and then Mariner shows her scars, kind of like in Lethal Weapon 3, I guess, and insists that she be the one to fight. And to make sure that can't happen, Ransom does something very unexpected, and he stabs her in the foot with a battle blade. And and then he starts fighting the Vindor, the giant Galrakian, and with his bare hands, mind you. And Mariner is watching this, and she's getting turned on by it. So back in the ship, Boimler suggests to the captain that she let the crew loosen up. And then Freeman gives permission for the crew to do whatever it takes to stop the invading force. And we cut back down to the planet again, and Vindor he submits to Ransom. And they cut back to the ship. It's like a back and forth thing. The aliens, the invading force, they're basically stopped and forced out. The crew was cleaning up the graffiti they left on the ship. And then they make up with the Galrakians. Mariner doesn't tell on Ransom for stabbing her, but he does reprimand her for not rolling down her sleeves, and she freaks out, and Ransom seems to be turned on by this. So they're hinting at some sort of relationship with Ransom and Mariner, which I didn't expect. Freeman informs Boimler that she initiated something called the Boimler effect, which has an official plaque and everything. And it's basically a rule about not following the rules. And of course, that's the opposite of who Boimler is. So he doesn't approve. Of course, he can't really object. And probably one of the best scenes in the show so far, just a little scene. It says in the far future, and it's a class of children, which include a Ferengi and a Borg, are being taught the Boimler effect, and Boimler is being portrayed as a corner-cutting kind of lazy officer, which is funny because that's not what he was. And probably one of the best references so far is they say they got to move on to a lesson about perhaps one of the most important people in Starfleet, Chief Miles O'Brien. So that was a great ending to that episode. Now, like I said, it's on par with the last episode. It's last two episodes. I mean, it's the first time in a while where a Star Trek show's just been consistent in terms of one episode not really being worse or better than the last. Like I've noticed with previous shows, you'll get a couple of good and then a couple of duds. So I hope this consistency keeps up. I'm liking the comedy and the writing style. Of course, some things are too silly, like the captain, I think, telling crew to stick to their tasks and letting the guys invade the ship with their sticks and spears. It's strange, but it's funny that Boimler kind of points that out and says, they sticks and spears. And then Rutherford says at one point, he's like, "How did these guys get on the ship?" Uh, so the A and B plot were a little more interesting. I like the fact that Boimler and Mariner are separated in this episode, and there is like a sexual dynamic between Ransom and Mariner. Uh, I want to know how old Mariner is. I mean, she can't be the same age as the other her friends, so she has to be a bit older. She has all these scars and all this experience, and now there's possibly a relationship might be developing between her and the first officer. And how is the captain going to feel about that? So there's an interesting amount of character development in this show for uh, the amount of time we've spent with them. I mean, 3 20-something minute episodes. And I think I have a better sense for these characters, not than more than previous Trek. It's just for a cartoon, it's not bad. It's not bad. Like I said before, I understand this fast paced kind of silliness injected into Star Trek may not work for some people, but if you just want to kind of let loose and take a lesson from this episode and not be so strict about uh, what Trek can be, and this certainly is something different, and there's been nothing like this before. Uh, However, in the animation style is not unique. It looks like a lot of other things. A lot of people praise the animation style. I think at times it looks a bit choppy, but I mean it's fine. It's great. It's not the best thing I've ever seen, and it's not bad at all. So uh, I just hope the consistency keeps up and the show doesn't falter because it's doing pretty good so far. I think. Yeah. So the standout, I think, to me was the whole popping up of that relationship between, or the sexual chemistry or tension between Mariner and Ransom. That was a bit surprising, and also like in that short little speech that Ransom gives in the shuttle bay, all the references he gives in about the spores um, and the the tar and what was the other's name? Yeah, I forget. But yeah, uh, I can't wait to hear what everybody else has to say about this very early in the morning while I'm recording this, broadcasting this. So I have no idea what anybody else thinks of it yet, but I thought it was pretty good and pretty on par with the last two, and looking forward to more Star Trek Lower Decks. So until next time, folks, live long and prosper.